Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1431. The topic is Q&A and the title is Strength Development. What program is best for you? So I was talking with a gym member recently. They were doing a squat workout while my wife and I were working out. And I noticed that they were going super freaking heavy. And even in their most challenging weights, when they were kind of like grinding, trying to drive through the weight to get it to the top, they maintained absolutely perfect technique. It was ridiculous how good their technique looked. Technique on the lightweight was perfect. Technique on the heavyweight looked the exact same, just a little bit slower. Anytime they kind of got into a sticky little kind of grindy point, they shifted kind of harder into their heels, maintained their body position. It was freaking fantastic. So awesome technique. So I then asked them, hey, those look really freaking awesome. I just said, congratulations. And he kind of like seemed sad. And I was like, oh no, what's up? And he had said that he went through a program, a strength building program, and unfortunately, it didn't really work. He didn't see any strength increase. So we started talking more about the program, and it just it sounded like he got a beginner program, which focuses on a lot of volume. But those beginner programs mostly work when somebody is not very technically proficient, meaning they don't have very good technique. So since he already had really good technique, the program that he was following didn't actually kind of match what he needed. So we started talking a little bit deeper into that, and then that kind of led to the idea of creating this podcast. Now, in a couple recent podcasts, I've talked a little bit about this off and on, but if you want to check out podcast 102, I know that's a long time ago, so just 102. If you use Google and just type in Podbean Brutal Iron Gym, on the Podbean website, there's for Brutal Iron Gym podcast, there's a search function on the right side of the page, in the middle of the screen on the right side of the page, like the middle in terms of height on the right side of the page, and you'll see there's a search there. So you can type 102 or type in the title, but it's a training podcast titled 3 Ways to Progress in Strength, and the 3 is actually the numeral 3, not the word 3. So if you try to search for that, that's what you want to look for. So real quick kind of rundown of that is 3 ways to get stronger when you're trying to progress strength. Is you can get technically more proficient, which allows you to better display the strength you have. And while you're trying to work on technique, you often will, develop some slight progression in physical strength as well. So, but you can get technically more proficient, which means you can better display your current strength. You can also just get physically stronger. So you increase the strength you have to display. And then mental strength actually factors into it. Is, do you have the confidence to try big heavy weights? And do you have the kind of mental capacity to manage proper technique even under heavy stress loads? So those are kind of 3 focal points when you're looking at trying to progress in strength. Almost all programs will benefit each of these, but as you advance, it becomes more important to focus on which of these 3 that you need the most. So the gym member, they already had great technique. So technique was already really good. And they knew how to stay calm and grind under really heavy weight, so their mental strength was pretty good. In order for them to get stronger, they just needed more physical strength development. Now, contrast to most beginners is this is kind of me being, a jerk and kind of making it quick and summary, but they're not good at any of them. So their technique is not that great. Physical strength probably isn't that great since they're just beginning. And mental strength, they might be good there because they just don't know yet what they don't know. But often people, if they're beginners, they can lack confidence. So that can be, something that they struggle with as well. So beginners, they need everything, but they benefit more so from technique improvement. So typically beginners, if they went into the gym and maxed out day one, they will not be able to display the true strength they have. They just won't be technically proficient enough to actually show the strength they have. As they improve their technique, they'll be able to put more weight on the bar, and it looks like they're getting stronger when actually they're just getting technically more proficient at showing their strength. So most beginners just need more technique development, and that's kind of the main focus right away. As you become more advanced, you need more physical strength development. Now again, in a good program, you should kind of get all three, but there is a way that a beginner should focus more on technique versus an advanced athlete trying to focus more on physical strength development. So I wanted to give just a quick rundown example of like a 10-week program for progressing in strength for a single lift. So let's say the high bar back squat. And this might be, and the reason I'm using this example is this is what the client, like the gym member did in the gym. But like let's say they're going on the back, like high bar back squat, because they want to improve overall leg strength to help towards their Olympic lifts. They want to do a clean jerk, snatch, things like that. Maybe they just want to get their high bar back squat better. That sounds good. But the concepts I'm about to explain would work for a deadlift or a bench press or, military overhead press. If you want to do a strict standing press, really can work for anything. But we're going to talk about it in the context of a high bar back squat. So typically, when you're talking about Olympic lifters and like into some CrossFit and stuff, but Olympic lifters, they can do high volume, like high frequency training, because they don't do much else. So with like bodybuilding, for example, there's an enormous amount of eccentric loading, which causes a lot of tissue damage, and they need greater recovery between their workouts. If you're an Olympic lifter, you do a lot of momentum-based lifting. You don't necessarily have a lot of heavy eccentrics. So you're going to have an ability to train at a higher frequency. So that's going to be something I'm not going to talk much about, but that is something I want to at least mention, that the frequency in which I'm talking about the program will not work for all lifts. This is specific to somebody doing high bar back squats trying to get better at Olympic lifting. So an example would be a beginner program. Let's say they're going to do 4 sessions a week. Session number 1, they might use 60 to 70% of their max. So really kind of lightweight. Think of half of what your max weight feels like. This is a little above that. So 60 to 70%. They're going to do 8 sets of 3 reps. And if you want a copy of what I'm talking about, just email me at brutalirongym@gmail.com and I'll send you today's notes. But they're going to do 60 to 70% lightweight for 8 sets of 3 reps. Really lightweight, just high repetitions, 24 working set reps. Now you also get a bunch more in your warm-ups and stuff, but there's 24 total working reps, in this workout. So 60 to 70%, 8 sets of 3 reps. The idea of it is it's lightweight, high reps, tons and tons of practice for technique. So great technique development, very little physical development though. This is not going to cause a lot of muscle damage at all. 8 sets is a lot of sets, but 3 reps per set and only 60 to 70% doesn't really create a lot of muscle damage. But that's okay. That's what we would want. So they're going to have high technique development in this workout, very low physical development, and it's okay, like for mental confidence. So kind of like a medium-ish, So that would be workout number 1. Then workout number 2, they're going to jump up to really heavy weight, say 90 to 95%. So pretty heavy. You could even say like 85 to 95, somewhere in there. So they're kind of like not max effort, like go 100%, but 85 to 95, kind of somewhere in that range. And we might only do 4 working sets of 1 rep. This is very heavy. It's okay-ish for technique because you're going to have a lot of warm-up sets to get up there, but it's not a lot of total working reps in the workout. It's pretty good for physical development. You will get some muscle damage, connective tissue damage, and therefore, adapted tissues to get them stronger and bigger. So you're going to get some physical development, but this is freaking awesome for mental strength. You get under some big heavy weights, get to feel what it's like, have to bend your knees under that and hope you don't die. So this is, in a sense, kind of the opposite of session number 1. Session number 1 was tons of technique, but kind of low physical development and kind of low mental strength. Now this one, if we go session number 2, at 85 to 95%, 4 sets, 1 rep, super heavy, so okay-ish for technique, okay, better for physical development, but awesome mental development. Session number 3 is going to be 65 to 75%. So you're going to be a little neurologically fatigued coming in from session number 2. So we're going to do a little bit lighter weight load, 65 to 75% for 6 sets of 3 reps. This is somewhat muscle building, but not a ton of muscle building. You get a decent amount of practice and okay for mental strength. Not super heavy, but you get more repetitions, you get more confidence building. Session number 4, you might do 75 to 85% of your max. So this one's significantly heavier. You're going to do 6 sets of 2 reps. This is still good technique, better physical development, physical kind of damage to the tissues, and kind of pretty good mental attention. So this would be kind of the 4 sessions. I'm going to tell you those wave percentages again. Now, again, you can email me, brutalirongym@gmail.com. But session number 1 would be super light, 60 to 70%. Session number 2, super heavy, like 90 to 95%, somewhere up there, pretty heavy. Session number 3 is back down to 65 to 75, and then session 4, 75 to 85. There's lots of kind of muscle damage and kind of building work. Now, that does depend on your nutrition. You have to be eating sufficient calories and protein to actually be able to adapt to the stimulus that you're creating. So nutrition has to be on point for any of this to work. And then it gives you a lot of repetition practice. So you get, for example, 58 total reps in like working set reps, not including warm-ups. So the nice part about this is over the first 8 weeks, the percentages would be, so it's a 10-week program. You're basically going to do those percentages and all this stuff, 4 sessions for 8 weeks. The first 4 weeks, you're kind of in the bottom part of the ranges. The second 4 weeks, you're in the top part of the ranges. Then after week 8, in week number 9, you just have session number 1 and 3. So the 60 to 70% session, then the 65 to 75% session, and then the first week out workout in week 10, you'd try to max out. So it's a 10-week program. There's 8 weeks of solid work, a week to kind of let your body heal up, and then the 10th week you go nuts and see what you can do. That would be a good kind of beginner program. Now, an advanced program, we would actually only look for 3 sessions a week. And I'll talk about more of this here in a second. But you would look at 3 sessions a week instead of 4. The first 4 weeks, you would be using the sessions numbers 1, 3, and 4 from the beginner's program. So you'd be doing the 60 to 70% for 8 sets of 3, then the 65 to 75% for 6 sets of 3, and then the 75 to 85% for 6 sets of 2. So it's not going to necessarily feel very heavy, but you're getting in a large amount of volume. Now, when you're stronger, if you're more advanced, your 60 to 70% is a hell of a lot more damaging than somebody who's a true beginner. Your 75 to 85% is a hell of a lot more damaging than somebody who's a true beginner. So if you're stronger, you need greater recovery time to address the muscle damage. Now, the lighter session, why would we still keep a 60 to 70% session in there for somebody who's already pretty advanced? It's good for kind of blood flow restoration through the joints, and it's good to address any movement therapy issues or movement quality issues. So if you have like a tight elbow, that could be something to work on. Maybe your right knee kind of feels weird compared to your left knee, that's something to work on. It's just trying to identify how you're moving and can you improve the quality of your movement. Then the second 4 weeks, we'd want to use sessions 1, 2, and 4. So you actually would now do the 60 to 75% session, then the 90 to 95% session, and the 75 to 85% session. This is going to push a lot. So a lot of muscle damage, a lot of heavy workload practice. So this would be what powerlifters would use as a term called peaking. You're getting under really heavy weight, you're pushing some heavy things around, and you're forcing your body into a state of kind of being beat up each and every week. And then all of a sudden, you're going to take that pause in week 9, only do sessions 1 and 3, and then in week 10, you go for a new max. This allows for what's called super compensation, in that if you kind of beat the body up for 4 weeks, then you give it a week to recover, it actually peaks and increases its strength output, so then all of a sudden you can go for something fun. So the idea of a beginner versus an advanced program. The beginner has more practice, like technique practice. So there's greater overall volume. So in just these examples, the beginner program has 58 working set reps. So 58 reps per week. That does not include warm-ups. Then the advanced one, the first 4 weeks you have 54 reps, but then the final 4 weeks of the bulk of the work is only 40 reps per week. So it increases its weight load and heaviness, which forces that physical strength adaptation. And that's what we talked about at the beginning, is that advanced people need to focus more on physical strength adaptation, whereas beginners need to focus more on technique development. So both of these examples have good physical strength development. The advanced program has less training volume, but they're stronger, so their weight loads they use cause more damage. Therefore, it requires less overall volume to create equal amounts of muscle damage as the beginner would get. And this type of need of like reducing total volume for advanced athletes needs to be accounted for so you don't cause acute injuries to connective tissues and joints. And that's often what a lot of advanced athletes find when they unknowingly do a beginner's program is towards the latter half of the program, they start to run into a lot of joint annoyances and feeling overly fatigued because the volume is too high for their strength levels. So both also have great mental development by allowing for heavy weight load practice and good volume to build confidence. So, again, you can email me at brutalironGym@gmail.com and I'll send you the outlines. But what I wanted to kind of get across in this podcast, kind of talking through all this, is that when you're looking at a program, how do you know if the program is best for you? Well, if you're a beginner, it should have high volume. And often you're going to need more focus on main lifts. So the main lift should be in there pretty frequently. And you're not going to have as many accessory movements, but there should be a ton of variety in the accessory movements. So what you do kind of after your squat or after your main lift should be kind of a ton of difference from week to week or from like section to section of the program. So, for example, in this program example, I said it's a 10-week program with 8 weeks of kind of really pushing you. For those 8 weeks, I might change beginners like exercises, the accessory exercises, what they do after squats. I might change that every 2 weeks or every 3. Kind of have a higher frequency, make them move through a lot of different positions. And the reason why is because they have a lot of variable weaknesses. So their weaknesses are kind of all over the place. So it's good to have a high variety of exercise selection outside of the main lift. Whereas when you're an advanced athlete, you need a lower amount of volume and you need way more specificity to your exercise selection so you address your very specific needs. You don't have as many weaknesses all over the place. You might just have 1 or 2 that need to be hyper-focused on. So the accessory exercises would have a lower rate of change or would have a crisper, kind of narrower scope for exercise selection window. So, what good programs should account for? So if you're looking at what program is best for you, it should account for individual strength level. The stronger you are, it changes how you need to train. A beginner versus an intermediate versus an advanced person lifting weights should all have slightly different programming. Absolutely. I have 2 podcasts that'll help explain why. An old one is podcast 383. It's a training podcast titled How Your Strength Affects How You Should Train. And then a more recent one is podcast 1172 is a training podcast titled Strength Effects on Training Frequency. So again, you can go to Podbean, Brutal Iron Gym, that website, look on the right side of the screen in the middle of the page, and you'll see the search function. Then good programs should also account for training frequency and recovery needs and making sure they match your actual goal. Different goals require different training frequencies and they require different recovery rates. So that needs to be included within any good program. That needs to be accounted for. So, a bodybuilder should not train each major lift at the same rate as a power lifter who does it at the same rate as an Olympic lifter. Those all should be slightly different. Podcast 322 is a training podcast titled Training Frequency and Recovery Differences per Goal. So that'll be a good one to learn more about that. And then, if possible, a good program should be specific to your equipment availability. So I write programs for all my clients with their gym in mind, like what equipment they have. If it's a home gym, I have them send me a bunch of photos. If it's a commercial gym, I have them send me photos or send me the website. Like I recently did for one client in the UK, he had a gym where they offered a virtual tour of the gym, which was really freaking cool. You could actually go in the gym, like virtually, and click and look at all the different machines and things. So that was really fun. So I actually looked around and figured out what machines would be best for him based on the way they were made. There's a lot of individual differences in regards to what equipment you have available. Even my clients, like if they work out at say like a Life Fitness, they don't always have the exact same equipment. They often have the same kind of equipment kind, like brand. They'll have a deal with, for example, Techno Gym to make sure they have a bunch of their stuff, or Life Fitness equipment. There's LA Fitness. Each LA Fitness does not have the exact same equipment. Again, they might have a contract with, say, Hoist, but they have different machines at each one. So it is helpful to see and know what equipment you have available. So I do that when I write programming. Also, good programming should offer ranges. Like there should be repetition ranges and percentage ranges in good programming. So your programming should not say 3 sets of 10. That is a bad program. If it says, 85% for 4 sets of 4, bad program. So they should have some ranges, and why is there's a ton of reasons. Podcast number 982 will tell you them. It's a training podcast titled Why Programs Should Have Rep and Percentage Ranges and How to Use Them. Okay? Podcast 982. Cool. Well, I fear that me going through all the percentages might have made this kind of a little confusing, but again, you can email me at brutalirongym@gmail.com and I'll send you an outline that shows you all this. But I hope that what you can take away from this is that what program is best for you, there needs to be some accounting to whether you're beginner, intermediate, advanced. If you are an advanced athlete and you're struggling to progress and you're buying bulk programs, it's probably because that bulk program is written for a beginner, or the person is just hoping that if they make you do 1,000,000 repetitions, your technique will improve and therefore you'll be able to get a PR and it looks like their program worked well. So if you're an advanced athlete, an advanced lifter, I really would suggest you do not do bulk programming. Get a good coach that can personalize things for you. If you're advanced, it's probably very important to you, and it would be in your best benefit to make that investment because you are in more need of specificity as you advance. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm always happy to help. I didn't make this podcast as a way to be a commercial. I didn't think of that until the very end. Sorry about that. But I am happy to help if anybody wants any help with anything. But also, look around online. If there's a coach who kind of, you feel like you vibe well with them, reach out to them and get some help. I do believe personalized coaching is very helpful for advanced athletes. That's why I do it, and that's why I love it. Cool. Okay. Well, if you need anything, my email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. I'll be happy to help write a program for you. Or if you want me to just review a program that you're considering or one you're already following, that could be fun. I'll do program reviews and make them for future podcasts. I'd be happy to do that. I enjoy doing that. It helps me learn more, and it helps everybody else learn more. So that would be cool if you want to reach out and have me do that for you as well. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope it's helpful. The more people we share the podcast, if you don't mind doing so, just helps us help more people. You can share it on social media or a conversation with a friend. Just let people know about the podcast so we can help more and more people. I appreciate it very much, and I'm sure they will as well, or at least I hope they do. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, the people who financially support the podcast. The podcast is well over $1,000 a year for hosting costs. I give an hour to it every single day, even weekends, and I just love it. I would love to keep this for free, and I'd love to keep it going forever, and the donations help make that any business sense whatsoever. So thank you very much for doing that to help cover some of those costs. If you do want to donate, you can do so at our website at www.brutalirongym.com. We have an option there for a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation. Anything you can give is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Also, if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. If you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything you want to know, let us know at our email, brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.